So if my voice gets shaky or I have to take some deep breaths, just hang in here with me, okay? We're gonna get through it. Let's talk a little bit about me. I have worked for Rocky for a little over 5 years, and I started in guest services, but like Matt said, I am now in local impact and connections. So I get to have partnerships with our local schools and towns and organizations around this place and throw pretty cool events like Shine Prom, which a lot of you guys helped set up a few months ago, which is pretty cool. And I get a love on our volunteers. So I really love my job. And then I'm married to my husband, Joel, for over 11 years now, which is pretty cool. And we've got 3 really wild kids at home. So Nolan is our oldest, and he is 10. And Trevor is 8, and Elise is 7. They're crazy, they're fun, they have all of the energy, they're wild, and they're my whole world. And I'm super lucky that they are mine. But before I was Josie that worked for this church and had a family, I used to be a young girl from the middle of nowhere, Colorado, okay? So I was from a small town, and my 2 older brothers and my parents and I moved to Akron, Colorado when I was 6 years old. And when I talk about small town, I don't mean tri-town, small town, okay? We had 1 stoplight. There were cattle ranches and farmland as far as you could see. And there, you guys, there's no fast food within 30 miles. Okay, it's really, really sad, small town. And my parents and I and my older brothers, we moved there when I was young. And I actually grew up with the same 25 to 30 kids from my 1st grade year to my senior year. Our high school had around 150 kids. And the town itself was 1,200 people. So it's super small. And everybody knows everything about you in this town, okay? In my family, we were pretty dysfunctional, okay? I would explain my growing up years as pretty unstable. So sometimes it was good, and sometimes it was not. And I mentioned earlier that I have 2 older brothers, which means I'm the baby. Do I have any other babies of the family in here? Yes? It's the best. It has some perks to that. My oldest brother, he loved me, and he would do anything for me at any time. He had the biggest heart. He still is one of the most generous, awesome people, and I love him. But it also had some disadvantages. My middle brother hated my existence, okay? He would grab me before sports practice, and he would put me in a chokehold to like make me pass out and then let me go. He was the absolute worst. So for payback, I decided it was a great idea to date all of his friends. Any of you do that? Yeah? No, not great for any relationship. On a side note, now that we've kind of grown up and we don't have to live in the same house, so if you have sibling tension at home, guys, it gets better. They actually become pretty cool people that you want to hang out with. So on that, going back to being the baby. My parents were tired of parenting by the time I came around. So you heard me kind of talk about my middle brother. So by the time I came around, I wasn't held accountable for really what I did. And I kind of just got away with doing whatever I wanted. On top of that, their marriage was always falling apart at the seams. And that came with a lot of challenges for my brothers and I to kind of navigate. And my oldest brother, he became the protector, always making me feel safe. And my middle brother kind of shut everything out. And I tended to be somewhere right in the middle. But this was also in the town that was very small, where everybody knew what was going on. So it got to be pretty embarrassing. Now, being from a small town, although it was not my favorite experience, it was not all bad. So I was lucky enough to have 2 of my very best friends that I made in 1st grade, and I'm still super close to them today, which is unheard of in a friendship world. Their families loved me, treated me as their own, and it was pretty awesome. I had some good teachers, and I was athletic, so I played some sports. And I had this one boss who was super awesome, and still to this day, he will call me on my birthday to just check in, which is kind of cool. But I didn't have any environment that looked anything like this. There was no Rocky students. I was kind of raised in a Lutheran church, which is very legalistic. It's very different than what you see here. And I remember going, and the church was filled with a much older generation. So anytime you would go, they would make you feel like you were wrecking their routine. And so I didn't really care too much to go. I would fall asleep during the sermons. I didn't know what being a Christian meant. And with that, I made decisions that today I'm not super proud of. You guys, I dated some of the wrong guys. And I was pretty sure in high school that I was going to marry at least one of them. It was awesome, I'm thankful that I did not. I was really stubborn when it came to being coach, and I didn't like to listen to other people. I would go to parties in the pastures on the weekends. And I know it sounds like really a ton of fun. And I would cheat on all of the homework and tests that I could possibly get away with. So I was not a very great teenager. And after my senior year of high school, my parents finally hit the dysfunction of their marriage, and they actually ended up splitting up in a pretty nasty divorce. And this divorce actually landed my dad in jail and then into a psych hospital. And then my mom actually left Colorado to go and stay with one of her brothers, go live there. And life as I knew it had just exploded, right? My parents nothing was going well. And so I chased after my mom, really. I kind of went after her. And when I got there, she wouldn't see me. She was embarrassed. There was a lot of things going on. And my life was just blown up. I didn't know what to do anymore. And that's when I had to figure out how to be an adult. I no longer had a home to go home to. And I didn't have a job. I didn't know what I was going to do with my life. I didn't know how to make money. So I had to figure out pretty fast what it was like to grow up. And in that, I ended up dropping out of college, and I moved back to Iowa, which is where my family was from originally, and I got to live with one of my aunts. And you guys, my aunt to this day is one of the most amazing women, and I don't know how she walked with me through those years when my life was the messiest, but she was pretty amazing, and I'm super, super grateful for her. But in the years that followed my parents' divorce, I kind of made all of those same decisions that I'd always made. I was stubborn. Nobody was going to hurt me. I could do all of these things on my own. And I felt like who I was, that's who I was always going to be. And in the back of my mind, there was always this like, hey, is there something more, right? There's got to be something more. And I'm going to fast forward a little bit because there's a lot that happened between 2007 and 2010, which a long, long time ago, you guys. But I want to get to the good part of my story. So I ended up moving back to Colorado, and I started a new job, and I made some new friends, and I actually mended that relationship that I had had with my mom. And then I met Joel. And you guys, he was different, and he loved his family, and he loved his friends, and he had this relationship with Jesus that I just quite couldn't understand it. And while we were dating, he invited me to go to church. And I remember thinking, this place is weird, right? It's nothing like I used to go to. And I didn't know if I wanted to go back. And it was just, I was super uncomfortable just from past experiences with a church. But we kept going, and he kept inviting me, and I kind of started to feel welcomed, and people were kind to me, and nobody was judging me for my parents' mistakes or what I used to do, and everything about that felt really refreshing. I started learning new things. And so a little bit forward, Joel and I got married, and we started our family, and we decided that coming to church was going to be a priority for us. And this is when I started to realize that, hey, I got to choose, right? I got to choose who I wanted to be. I get to be the person that changes my life and becomes a better person. And so then I chose that, hey, I want to be baptized, and I want to have a relationship with Jesus. And after that, I gradually started making different choices, and I really started treating those around me a lot kinder. I was more patient and loving. You guys, I really focused on the words that were coming out of my mouth. Guys, I cussed a lot. And around here, we call those Josie words, which is also not something necessarily to be proud of, but that's what I used to cuss all of the time. So through that relationship with Jesus, there is this verse in Luke 9, and it tells us that daily we have to pick up our cross. All right, and we have to follow him. And that means like, hey, daily, I have to remember I don't want to use those words, and I want to be kind, and I want to be more like Jesus. And so that's a really cool verse for me to look at, and I don't always get it right. Okay, I mess up more than I would like to admit, and I have to remind myself on days that I fail that I've come a long, long way, and that I'm not always who I used to be, and that I can change, and I'm still growing, and I'm continuing to grow, and I hope that in the years to come, I continue to grow even more. So back to that small town that I talked about earlier, my oldest brother, actually, he raises his family there. So occasionally I go back, and some people that will know me from a long time ago, like, hey, Josie, what do you do? And I get to tell them, like, hey, I work for a local church. And I'm mostly given shocked looks because that's not who they remember me being. So it's pretty cool that I even get to have a little influence there. Like, I'm not who I used to be. And I have this relationship with Jesus, and that's really, really cool. So here's my takeaway for you guys today. I want you to take a moment and just look at yourself, okay? Do you feel like I felt? Do you happen to have that feeling like, gosh, there's got to be something more? Do you feel like you're the friend that you want to be? Are you who you want to be? Are you kind? Are you patient? Are you focusing on your relationship with Jesus? Now, if you said no to any of those things, I just want to remind you that it's not too late, and that you can change and you can grow. And whether that happens tomorrow or 6 months down the road or 10 years from now, you are not stuck being someone that you don't want to be. Also, I want you to take a look around you. Okay, take a mental note of those that are in your life that lift you up. Those that love you and support you and care about you. Those people are important, and don't take them for granted. Now, if you come to this place regularly, a lot of you are actually who my kids look up to, and I think that's pretty important. And then if you don't come here, but a friend invited you and you think this place is a little weird, I also get that, okay? I was there, I did this. I was a lot older than you are, but I hope you know that this place, you are accepted and you are loved and you are cared for. And yeah, we really love having you here. I want to thank you guys for letting me kind of share my story with you tonight. I will be in the lobby later. If I haven't met you, I would love to meet you. And if you know me, I'm a hugger, so come and hug me afterwards. Yeah, thank you guys so much for having me.